Now, yes, I know it's another rare rifle, but I do collect these now. I think I've got enough to warrant being called a collector. And this one is one I've been after for a while, ever since I found out about these. This is a German Feinwerkbau 300S. And I do apologise if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but this is a 10 metre target match rifle from... They started making these in 1972, I think. And then they were made right the way through until, I think, the early 1990s. It is a single stroke spring powered target rifle, but these are rather unique in the fact that they have virtually no recoil. They have two opposing coil springs for the actual piston, but not only that, this entire top part of the receiver slides backwards and forwards, and that eliminates pretty much all of the recoil. Now this one has some issues, and we'll go down the length of it so that you can have a look at it, but yeah, it's still a lovely gun. As far as I know, it works okay. It's just the issues are mainly cosmetic. Now, I have no idea why all that masking tape is around the buttstock, but obviously I'm going to have to use a heat gun to get that off. But the stock is in pretty bad shape. It's got lots of scratches and dings on it, as you can see. Stickers which I'm going to have to remove. I'll probably sand the stock down and refinish it, because it is literally quite that bad. One of the nice touches, that's the original Feinwerkbau diopter rear sight on there, which is great. It doesn't always come with those. As you can see, the stock is in a pretty bad way. Well, it's functional, but it definitely needs some work. The barrel and breech and the receiver are all in quite nice nick, so I'm not really going to need to do much there other than a bit of cleaning. And here's the other side. This is the side lever here. That you pull that all the way back. It's on a bear trap ratchet, and that cocks a gun. Right, let me move down the side of it so you can see what this side is like. Yeah, this side of the stock's not quite so bad, certainly not the full stock anyway. The bluing on the barrel and the barrel weight is actually quite nice. Right, so the next thing to do is to take the actual action out of the stock, and then we can take the butt plate off, and then we can have a look and see what's up with the stock. Well, quite a lot to say on the Feinwerkbau 300S. I've done quite a bit of work on it, and so has someone else, but we'll get onto that later. So what's going on? Well, I've removed the front sight. That should be pinned in place by a cotter pin. That pin was completely missing, so there was nothing really holding the front sight on. So I've removed that and I've made up a new pin, but it's not finished yet, so there's still some work to be done on that pin. What else? Obviously I've removed the rear diopter sight as well, and I've removed the butt plate that was on there. I've also, as you can see, removed the masking tape, so let's have a closer look at the stock. Now, I was expecting to find all sorts of horrors under that masking tape. It's obviously been on there a long time, and I assume someone had put it on there because there was splinters in the stock or cracks or something, I don't know, but I had to use a heat gun to get it off, and then there was loads of old masking tape goo left on, which fortunately was the type that WD-40 is a good solvent for. So basically wet rags were soaked in WD-40 and I was able to get all the glue off, and surprisingly there is no damage. The other side is pretty much in the same state as this side. There's no cracks, no splits, no real damage to the wood. There's a few dings in the stock, but so I have no idea why that masking tape was wrapped around the rear part of the stock. So I'm very happy to find it's not damaged. So yeah, that was a massive bonus. So who else has worked on it then? Well, as I made the comment on the last clip, I shouldn't say things like, oh, I'm sure it works fine, because what happened was when I got it home, I cocked the gun, put a pellet in it, basically loaded it, fired it, and it worked fine. But But that was the one and only time that it worked. When I tried to cock it again, it would cock, but the trigger sear it didn't appear to be engaging, so the trigger didn't do anything. So I took the stock off, and you can take the trigger block off as one piece, which I did. Was able to manually fire the gun because I could get to where the trigger engages, but I couldn't work out from there why it wasn't working properly, and I was a bit reluctant to strip it down any further because my knowledge of these guns is almost non-existent. So I thought, no, I'm not gonna risk it. I took it down to my local gunsmith, a chap by the name of Jonathan, who is absolutely brilliant. Let him have it. He had it for a few days and fixed it, and it's now fully operational. Basically what happened, on the end of the piston that compresses the air in this gun, there is a plastic, I think, type of disc washer, which is like a bump stop. Over time these degrade and crumble, and that's what had happened with this one, and it was stopping the action from moving over the full distance. So that's obviously why the sear wasn't engaging. Fortunately, you can buy new parts for these, even though they were made a long time ago. You can still get new parts, and he managed to source a new stop, fitted it, and it now all works perfectly. So, not that you're likely to be watching this, Jonathan, but if you are, thank you so much. It's just awesome that this gun now works. So now I can get on with the rest of the restoration. And obviously there's a lot of work to do on the stock. I'm going to have to take that off. I've got to make a new pin for the front sight. What else? I think I've covered all this, but we'll just go over it again. The rear sight, the rear diopter, which is the genuine FWB1, has been cleaned up, and that all works fine. It was missing the rubber eye cup, which I managed to source one of those. They're still made, which is great. The original butt plate was not the right one that was on here, and it definitely didn't fit properly. This is a new one that I bought, which needed to be shaped a little bit, but now fits pretty much spot on perfectly. And then the other thing that we need to do is turn it over. In this groove here, there should be an accessory rail, which is what this bit of aluminium is going to be made into. Basically, it's just a strip of aluminium, thick flat bar of aluminium, curved end at that end, and it's got a dovetail cut in it for various accessories, you know, like a bipod, things like that. So that's where we are. Lots to do. The stock particularly is going to take a lot of work, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Oh, and of course we've still got to make this cap up that goes on the bottom of the stock there. So that's where we are at the moment. Well, progress with the Feinwerkbau 300S. I have sanded the stock down right to the bare wood, as in I removed all of the original finish. Before I did that, I used a damp towel, damp rag on it, and a clothing iron to try and bring out some of the dents, and I was quite successful. That did actually bring out some of the small dents that were in the wood, and the sanding cleaned up a lot of the other marks and dings and stuff. So yes, so I've taken it all the way back to bare wood. I now believe that the stock is walnut. That's certainly what the colour of the wood appeared to be once I'd taken off the original finish. So yeah, that's coming along nicely. I've got 2 coats of finishing on it so far. It's going to need at least 6, and it's quite a long-winded process, as I've explained before. Now, we've had some progress and some about turn, well, at least one about turn and one failure. So this is the original butt plate, which I said in an earlier video clip I didn't believe was the correct one because it didn't fit properly. Well, now I have revised my opinion. I believe that this is the correct butt plate. The dovetail that it adjusts on is on a curve, and that is exactly how FWB butt plates work. The reason it doesn't fit properly is because, let's zoom up there a minute. Go. I believe someone has cut about ½ an inch off of the stock here. Why they've shortened it, I don't know, but comparing it to photos of this exact model of this exact rifle online, it's definitely shorter. So that's the reason why the butt plate does not fit properly. So we are going to go with this one, not the one I bought. What else? Okay. The grip cap, which is the correct terminology, I believe, for this. I've made one out of some lovely Jara Australian hardwood. Now, it's not exactly the same as the original. The original had a much thinner lip than the one I've made. And the reason I've made that thicker is because the original was made out of strong plastic and I'm making this out of wood, and I don't want it to be too thin, the lip, because you know it will get damaged easily, basically. So that's why I've done that. That's going to be spray black because the original is black. I'll go back up to the stock again. So the grip cap fits on there like that. Okay, that's where that goes, and it basically blends in with the mates up with the bottom of the grip there. So that came out right. I was quite pleased about that. So the one failure was my attempt to make the accessory rail. I obviously machined a bit of aluminium up, perfect fit in the slot and the rest of it, but what I had not thought through was the fact that when you're cutting a female dovetail, you have to do it in one cut. You can't just gradually cut it, and of course my little tiny Sherline mill is not man enough, even in aluminium, to take that deeper cut that would be necessary to cut the dovetail. So for the time being, I've got to think about what I'm going to do there. I might see if I can find someone who can cut the dovetail for me, and that way I can then, that's the one bit I can't do. The rest of it I can machine no problem at all, but I can't cut the dovetail. So I might see if I can find someone who can do that for me with a proper decent sized mill. Other than that, you can buy them, but they're not cheap. You can get them on eBay. They cost about 30 quid, which is a lot of money just for a piece of aluminium flat part with a slot in it. So yeah, so that's where we are. It's going to take me some time to complete the stock. Bring it out again. Obviously, as I've explained the process before, when it comes to using finishing oil, you have to put it on and then leave it 15 minutes, wipe off the excess, and then leave it for 5 hours before you put the next coat on. And as you can see at the moment, it's looking quite dull, but it will gloss up slowly as I add more coats to it. So that's where we are with the 300S at the moment.